Hey, how we doing out there today? Today we're going to go over some basics of how to cast a fishing rod, different positions you cast from, and just some basics kind of help you get going. So stay tuned, it should be informative and we'll get right to it. All right, folks. So some of the different positions you can throw from are the sidearm, which is pretty simple, the overhand. Now notice when I threw that, I didn't try to throw it with the reel pointed out towards me. I went ahead and made a natural position with my wrist so I could throw it like that. All right, there again, I'm going to turn so I have a natural position with my wrist. I'm going to face my target, and I'm going to toss it. Now, because you'll be on a boat sometimes, and you won't be able to throw it this way, you'll need to cast from this side. So there, you can either learn to cast with your left hand, or what I do, I just cast over my shoulder. So again, I keep my wrist in a nice natural position, and I throw it. All right, so now let's take a look at when you're up close and you want to just pitch or flip. A pitch, basically hold the lure in your hand, make sure not to get any hooks in you, and you're going to drop the tip holding the lure and then simply let it go like that. So again, in a faster motion, like that. Okay, now a flip and a pitch are different. A flip, basically you're going to take and you're going to pull off line like that, and you're going to just flip it in. That's if you're fishing very close. Go ahead and latch your reel up, pull this back, and flip. Just like that. Okay, so when you're practicing, you're going to want to have a target. So I've got a little tub out there that I'm going to use to try to throw at. I'm going to throw at that, try my different types of casts. And it's pretty close, so we'll try some pitching. There we go. So one thing also, folks, when you're throwing, a lot of times you can't make a big, long, sweeping cast. So practice just flipping it out like a roll cast. You kind of roll and then let it go. So again, roll and let it go. And you want to practice that in different positions. So one thing to remember when you're selecting a rod, a reel, and you're going to do this casting, you're going to throw hundreds and thousands of times a day. So weight does matter. If you're like me, you're going to say, oh, it doesn't matter. I'm a big, strong guy. I can throw it 1,000 times a day. Man, your shoulders get to hurting, your elbows, everything gets to hurting. So get you some equipment that's light. It'll really help out. Okay. All right. Spin cast reel. This is a beginner's reel, and they work really well. They normally come in combos with a rod, very inexpensive. They have a button that you press to be able to cast, of course, a handle, and the tension knob or the drag knob is up here. Okay, so to cast one of these rods, simply press the button and you press it down all the way. Okay, and the bait just stays there, so you're able to cast. When you let the button go, it drops, and that's how that works. So a spin cast reel, you're limited. You can't throw anything too light on it. You got to have some weight, quarter, 3/8 ounce. They don't cast a real long ways, but they are great for a beginner. So to cast these, simply press the button down all the way and release as you're throwing. Then start reeling the handle, and if you notice, use these face up like this. Unlike a spinning reel, which is face down, this is like a bait caster, face up. These are only right-handed. You can't switch between right and left-handed. They retrieve pretty slowly. You can see I'm having to reel for a while to get that back in. Okay, so again, you can throw them from all positions. Press the button, flip from the side. Okay, again, natural wrist position. Press the button overhand. From the other shoulder. And these most generally you're just going to throw with one hand. Unlike a bait caster and a spinning reel, which throw pretty easily with both hands, most of the rods on these are really short, so they only have a handle for one hand. Pitching these is a little more difficult. But as you can see, can be done. The only one I made in the bucket. So anyway, good little reels, good little combinations if you're just starting out. Don't hesitate to buy one. I think I got these for $14. They'll get you out on the water for sure and do the job. Great for kids. Great for kids. They're reliable. Not a lot of line to get caught up in. It's all contained within here. Stay away from the little Spider-Man and Batman combos, those really short ones. You'll end up spending more time working on the reel, getting it right and getting it untangled than you will fishing. So start out, again, Zebco 202. Can't go wrong with a Zebco 202. It's what I grew up on when I was a kid. Absolutely love them. All right, so a spinning rod, unlike a bait cast, a spinning rod really shines with light lures. Unweighted lures, like quarter ounce, really small jigs, things like that. These are what that's for. Drop shot rig. Again, the combination of the reel and the rod is what determines how well you throw a particular weight lure. So to set the tension or the drag on a spinning reel, this particular model has a knob up front. You simply loosen it, take more drag out, or tighten it down to make it harder. Okay? Some models, they have a knob on the back, and you can tighten and loosen that knob, and that's how those operate. You do have the option of what's a free spool, and there's a knob on the back here that you can turn the other way. If you're trolling, you can drop your lure in the water, and then you can count how many revolutions you turn the reel backwards, letting the lure out in the water, and so you can be repeatable. Say you let it out 30 times and you catch a fish, well, you bring that fish in, you want to let it out 30 times again. If you're not catching fish, you may let it out 40 times. And if you hang up on the bottom, then you may go out 35 times the next time. So you can do a lot of trolling like that and be accurate with your depth. Okay? All right, so to throw a spinning reel, we went over before, you got what's called a bale. This is the bale. And you fold the bale over like that. And I like to put the line right behind that finger right there. And I don't know if you can see it, but right where that finger touches the spool is how I hold the line. Now for younger people, people with smaller hands, you may have to hold it like this and just loop that line around your finger. Okay? And then when you're done, after you cast, fold the bale over like that. Don't use the handle to crank the bale over, because every time you do that, you put a half twist in that line, and you don't want to be doing that. So fold the bale over, make your cast, and then fold the bale back over with your hand. Okay? All right, so to demonstrate with the spinning reel, I'm going to fold the bale over, and again, you can make all those same casts. You can cast from the side, you can cast overhand, like that. You can cast from over your other shoulder, like that. All right, folks. So what a bait casting reel is really good for is when you're making a lot of casts during the day and you have a heavier lure. Don't try to throw a really light lure on a bait caster. You'll just end up backlashing. It doesn't work out well. So there is a definite purpose for these. They're a great reel, a great setup, but they are limited. You can't throw real light like unweighted worms, things like that. You got to use a spinning reel for that. Okay, and then how heavy you can throw depends on your rod, and we'll go over that in another video. You throw a bait casting reel like this. You press down on the lever here, holding your thumb on the spool. So you press down, and then when you make your cast, you simply release, holding tension on the spool with your thumb. Right before it lands, go ahead and stop it with your thumb. If you don't, you'll get what's called a backlash. And all right, a fly rod. You really want to go here? Okay. Okay, a fly reel does have a drag system. It's on the back here with the knob. So you can tighten that up so that it's hard to pull out, or you can loosen it up so it's relatively easy. Fighting a fish on a fly rod is all about the drag, because you have a very, very limber rod. I mean, you can see this thing, you can bend it in two, okay? So fighting a fish on a fly rod is a blast. I don't care if it's a small perch. A lot of fun, a lot of research to fly fishing. So, you know, the different types of weights, different types of reels, different types of lines. So don't jump into it just thinking it's like throwing a spinning rod or a spin cast. It is different, but it's a lot of fun and it catches a lot of fish. That's the one thing that a lot of fly anglers won't tell you, is I can go out in most conditions, especially in the summertime, heat of the summer, and I can catch fish on these, no doubt about it. Fish love insects. They love little bugs floating on the water, and it's an absolute blast to catch them on a fly rod. It's a whole different type of fishing, and it has a whole community of its own type of fishermen that are hardcore. So if you're a hardcore fly angler, please don't be a hater. I'm just trying to introduce some folks into the different types of fishing. Okay? Fly reel, you can, but you don't cast basically with the reel. You cast with the rod, and you use the reel to reel in the fish. And basically the reel is just a line keeper is all it is. So when you get out on the water, first thing you're going to do is you're going to spool out some line. You're going to hold the line. And there's different ways of doing that. I always get in trouble from guides. I like to go on guided trips when I'm fly fishing because I like to hold the line in my hand. But basically all you're going to do is you're going to get it moving. Whoops. And I hooked the camera. All right. Good job. First thing about fly fishing, you got to have room behind you because that line's going to go as far behind you as it is in front of you. So we'll try this again, maybe a little more sideways. So the motion of this is basically 10 to 2. And the less line you have out, the faster your motion's going to be. So as I start out casting, it's going to be pretty quick. And then as I let more line out, it's going to be slower. Just like that. It's really not that difficult. It does take some practice. And the biggest thing that I can tell you for a beginner is let the rod load. When you're on your back cast, wait. When you've got line out, wait until you feel a little bit of tension before you start coming forward. Okay? You won't always be able to see it. So it's a pretty simple motion. When you're out on the water, your biggest friend is going to be a roll cast. Once you get some line out there, and you know, when you're first starting, don't be afraid to just kind of flip your line out there and spool some line out, okay? You know, let the current take it. If you're in a river, spool some more line out, let the current take it. And then when it gets tight at the other end, simply take your rod, point it at the fly, and flip it backwards. And then let it go down through the current again. And then flip it forward, and just flip it backwards again. That gets you on the water, that gets you started, that gets your fly in the right position. Because most of the time you're not going to be trying to make a 100-foot cast. You may go out on a big river or a big body of water, but it'll take some time to get there to be able to cast. But basically just get some line out there. And remember, tempo and acceleration. If you're a baseball player, if you played softball, baseball, any good coach taught you to accelerate the bat through, not to jerk it, to accelerate. In other words, slow and pick up your pace and keep going. And that's what fly casting is all about. It's about accelerating the rod tip. Oops, I'm hung up in a tree. Okay, now, like I say, I'm not a great caster, but that'll get you on the water. It'll get you flying near some fish. If you enjoyed this video, hit like and subscribe. Let's get out on the water and have a great day.